What in the world does Bigfoot have to do with the coaching industry? Well, quite a bit, as you might not expect, so stay tuned.
Welcome to the show. Tired of the hype about living the dream? It's time for truth. This is the place for tools, power, and real talk so you can create the life you dream and deserve. Your ultimate life. Subscribe, share, create. You have infinite power.
Hi, this is the ultimate life, your ultimate life. What the heck is the ultimate life? Well, I review this periodically. Let's make sure we're together. Ultimate life is living exactly the life you want, the life you dream every day, doing what you want, loving what you do, and being able to do the things that light you up and that add good to the world. I like that phrase, adding good to the world. So, we breathe, right? Every time we breathe, we add what? Carbon dioxide. Gratefully, the plant cycle and oxygen cycle reverses that. And we can choose what else we add. I can add anger. I can add frustration. I can add indifference. I can add being sarcastic. I can add being, apathetic. I can add a lot of things to the world. And sometimes we don't think it makes a difference. But you know what? Back in the 60s, when I was growing up, I was born in 1955. So in the 60s are my first, real memories. I remember smog and bad air and worrying about emissions and pollution. And I remember in school, grade school and intermediate school, watching videos of factories and businesses polluting streams and raw sewage, right? Pouring into, streams, lakes, oceans, whatever. And we were taught then that this didn't, that wasn't okay. Now, when you look at filthy water, you get that. It's like, you wouldn't want to even touch it, swim in it, be anywhere near it, right? But the air was something different. Like all the cars drove down the road, and with the exception of a few, which belched blue smoke, or the buses that ran on diesel. Not a lot ran on diesel then. I remember the smell of the diesel exhaust when we would take my dad to where he got picked up to go to San Francisco to work. He took the bus when he commuted. I remember the smell of that bus exhaust. Anyway, but it all dissipated quickly. And I don't know about others, but I never really thought about the air, like being overloaded with those pollutants until, of course, we started talking about smog and yellow air and brown things and carbon monoxide and nitrogen dioxide and all the rest of it. And so if we add enough things to the world, it really matters, even if it seems tiny, like one little car. Now we've upgraded, pollution standards in cars, and we've got some electric stuff and all that stuff. And some people think we're too crazy on it, and some people think we're not diligent enough. That doesn't matter. The point is, all of it gets added to the world and it accumulates. So when I say add good to the world, it simply means being mindful of the energy that you're adding to the world. Anger, lying, truth-telling, friendliness, joy, bitterness, evil, good. And so I use the phrase, add good to the world. And that has become my daily, hourly, minute-by-minute mantra. Am I adding good to the world? Now, sometimes people don't accept what you do as good or see it or notice it, but it doesn't really matter because it isn't just good added to the world if somebody pats you on the head and says, thank you. If you're adding good and love to the world, then you are. I love the Buddhist tradition of sending loving kindness. And there's more phrases to that in the Eightfold Path and so forth. But one of them is about loving kindness and sending loving kindness to others, to nations, to people. That's adding good to the world because that good energy accumulates. I know it might sound weird. You might think that's woo-woo nonsense, but it really isn't. When I was growing up, went to high school, we had to read a lot of books, just like you probably did in school. There was a very existential point of view. The only things that mattered is what you could see, taste, touch, feel, and prove. That's actually a very limiting view because there's lots of things we can't see. You can't see love. You can see the effects of it. You can see behavior that is driven by or sponsored by love. But you can't see love. You can't see fear. It is a neurochemical concoction. It is a story in our mind of imminent danger, maybe from old Bigfoot right there, yay, coming to rip my head off. But I can't see it. And so there's lots of things that exist in the unseen realm, and they carry real energy and have real consequences. Love is the most powerful force in the world. It is the victorious, the overarching, the designing, the glue force that holds everything together. It's attractive. It draws people together and creates growth and harmony. The negative of that, the opposite, whether it's hate or fear or shame, some people, call different things the opposite. It is a separating and exploding force. And you know that. You know it from your own feelings. So now I want to tell you a story about Bigfoot, because this is part of the coaching series that is about coaching and the rise of AI. And in the last episode on Thursday, I talked about what we have to do and be if we want to stay in business as coaches. And it's way more than you used to have to do. All right. So here's the legendary Miss story about using AI. Now, I've gotten really confident and competent at using AI. When I first started, I used it like I wasn't sure how to give good prompts, and I wasn't sure how to use it very well. I started with images when it was Dolly and started creating funny images, and I used some of those for backgrounds. I used a lot of them for backgrounds for a long time. The image creation software has gotten better and better and better and more fun. But anyway, then I started using verbal AI, and I used it like most of us do. Write some emails, write some marketing copy, tell me what this means, and I would put things in there that I wasn't sure. I wanted to look for alternative meanings and so forth. And then I got deeper and deeper and deeper and realized the level of intelligence, and most people are not even using the top 2% of its capability. And Chat GPT is the one I use most of all, but you use whatever favorite one you have. Just released a new version this morning or yesterday as I record this, and I'm already on it, loving it, and I'm trying to figure out what the difference is, the improvements, and so forth. But anyway, so when I talk to coaches about using AI and about what AI is ripping out of their coaching practice, which we talked about in episode 1113, here's what I hear a lot. Yeah, you bet I use AI. It's very helpful and it's really good. Do you use AI to coach you? Yes, I do. I ask it difficult questions. I ask it to analyze my nonsense and my barriers and stuff like that. Does it do good? Yes, it does. I find it very helpful. Well, if that's true, then so are your prospects and clients. Anyway, back to Bigfoot. So I also hear, you got to watch out about hallucinations. AI hallucinates badly. And, I hadn't experienced that a lot. I don't know if I had just not used it hard enough, although I used it for maybe thousands of hours in writing some books and in doing some deep research for coaching and the rise of AI, because I was using AI to analyze coaching models and their effectiveness and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, so I was in a grocery store. Actually, it was not only a grocery store. It was one of those department stores it's where they, expensive stores send their stuff that hasn't sold yet. In Canada, that's called Winners. It might be called TJ Maxx or Marshalls or something, one of those chains. Anyway, so I was in a store. This one I think was called Winners or Home Sense. Those are actually the same store in the Bay, and some other high-profile stores have sent their goods there. And the Hudson's Bay Company is now out of business here in Canada, which is a bit sad because it was the longest running corporation in the world, established in 1600 and whatever. But anyway, so I was in one department where they had food and food stuff, vitamins and spices and protein shakes and, a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And sometimes you can find some pretty good deals. Anyway, so I picked up this package and it was salt, floral salt. So I read the ingredients and it had flower petals and some stuff in it. And I thought, that's weird. I didn't know you put that in there. So I held the product. I took a picture of it, the front picture, and I turned it around. and took a picture of the back, which had, the ingredients and that sort of stuff. And I said, okay, what is this? An AI said, it confidently and absolutely told me it was a fake image, not to do anything or trust it at all, and it looked like Bigfoot on water skis. That's what it thought the image. It confidently told me I was looking at some surreal creation and to trust it not to trust it at all. And I laughed, and that's funny in a grocery store and dangerous in coaching. Now, the rest of the story is I argued with it and told it that it was a real product. And then it looked more carefully at the back, second picture, and came back, and we had a conversation about why it missed, and it was wildly, completely off target, right? And it came back and told me why. And about the first image, it wasn't the back, because the back just was words and some reflections and stuff based on how I'd taken the picture. I want you to think about that because, like I said, in the grocery store, that's hysterical. It was a legendary miss. Confident nonsense. Fluent error. Right? That's what it was. Really certain of itself, and it was nonsense. And what happened to create that miss was the image was blurry. It wasn't really confident. There was some fragmented cues and some ambiguous text that wasn't clear. And, it went with something. I had used AI a lot to create images and so forth. And so all of that put together had it spit out this confident nonsense. Here's why that's important. The coaching frameworks and tools and other things that we have been learning and taught over the years, lots of books and good people with well-meaning intentions can also spew out confident nonsense. And that is a real possibility and one of the reasons that coaching is undergoing a huge evolution right now. In that case, AI pattern matched too quickly. It committed before any kind of verification. Now, this is exactly what a lot of people are doing with AI language right now. I have seen so many people who are coaches or consultants or advisors diving into AI, asking good questions. And because these language models are so good at researching vast amounts of data, especially if you put it in, the deep thinking mode and that sort of stuff, it'll come back with beautifully articulated, well-written, hard-hitting phrases that make you sound like you are way out of control cool. I want you to think about that. It might feel good to use them. Maybe some neuroscience terms, some neuroplasticity terms, some meditation terms, some physiology terms, some trauma terms, some energetic terms, some mindset terms and phrases. Using those words will wreck your coaching unless you are those things. If those words are the way you experience and describe your own growth, I don't mean the coaching that you've done with others, your own growth, unless that's true or becomes true. I'm not saying you can't expand your vocabulary. I do. Of course you can. But they have to be depth. They have to carry a depth of truth. The things that you say, and I know coaches that use AI during sessions, and that's fine, except they sound brilliant and they can be just as ungrounded as Bigfoot on water skis, right? From a floral salt package. Now, this is not an indictment of AI. This is not an admonition or a request not to use it. On the contrary, use it, get good at it, make it work for you, dig in deeply, let it coach you, call it out, challenge it, use it as a tool because it is, and that is all. And the tool is getting better faster than we even know about or maybe can stand. I know you've seen the news articles in the last few weeks that talked about an AI model so powerful and advanced that the cybersecurity world is in some degree of panic. In fact, one thing I read said it changed the date that we have to worry about security, meaning internet security and the highest level of encryption security, from 2033 to 2029. So it shortened it 4 years because the model has gotten so powerful exponentially and so forth. So I want you to think about how you're using this amazing tool and how true it is for you. And here's the thing that's maybe will make you mad or will make you excited, one or the other. Sounding good when you talk to your clients is not important. Having good phrases, exponential this and quantum physics that and plasticity and the vagus nerve and attachment wingilis and all that, those are cool sounding things and they have very good and important meanings. But if they are not part of your lived truth, they mean nothing, and they will transform nothing, and they will not keep your coaching practice or your heart or your own personal transformation afloat. The foundational truth is, you know how fast AI is developing, model after model after model, right? And improvement after improvement. If you and I, as coaches, people who are in the business of helping people with these difficult things that are mostly internal, if we are not furiously engaged in our own development, meaning challenging ourselves on a daily basis in our own coaching container, if we are not being coached, going through that, a coach without a coach is a fraud, period. And the reason is because we are not thoroughly and actively engaged in that growth process. And so that means we cannot hold space for others. And I know hold space is the buzzword, and it has been for a decade or more, 2 decades, I don't know. We can't hold space or create emotional safety and energy and so forth for people to see, step into, and get zapped into their own growth. And by zapped, I just mean loved, heard, understand what forgiveness and growth really is. If we're not doing that, all we're doing using all those words is we're doing Bigfoot. We're hallucinating. And there he is, Bigfoot on water skis. Crazy. And we don't want to do that because I know your heart is right. So here's why this matters so much in coaching. Information, bad information, doesn't just waste time. It shapes your identity. It influences decisions. It delays healing and distorts it and can create dependence on fake depth. Fake depth. Now, I was holding assault, so I knew it was crazy, and I challenged it crazy, and I said, now look, man, you're way off base. I've heard about hallucinations before, and I'd never had one like that. And I said, you're out of control. I'm holding a salt in my hand. This is an actual product. So don't tell me it's fake, bogus, whatever, because you're crazy. So let's start all over. I said that. Let's start all over. And here's the pictures. And I'll do that again. And then we had a good conversation about not only what went wrong, but that led to this episode, which is how to understand and identify things that aren't so clear. Because it can sound so good, and that makes you sound good if you use those phrases, and they're not grounded in the total center and certainty of your heart. Talking about things is not the way to change. So I'll give you another real-world example. I taught piano for 40 years. I started when I was 17, and I didn't teach it every year, but lots of years, till I was about 57. So about 40 years, maybe a little longer. But anyway, and not just piano, I taught orchestration and jazz improv and electronic music and studio science and stuff like that. The thing that mattered most wasn't me describing fingering patterns or showing students what to do. The thing that mattered most is my ability to be that with them, to demonstrate and to help them have the experience of success, have the experience of the energetic structure of winning. So I want you to think about that. And that's why all these wonderful words, AI it's like a drug, or it can be like a drug. It makes you feel good and you think you sound really good. Have you ever talked to somebody who's been high or drunk or stoned even a little, and they think they're just out of control cool? And we're watching and it's like, yeah, let's video this so they can see themselves later. This reliance on that, if those things are not part of you already, really at a deep level, will make that happen. You'll look like that silly and you will not cause the changes you need. Okay? Coaches and your prospective clients, we have access now to elegant, really cool metaphors, analogies, stories that make us sound good, and polished explanations. When I use AI to write, I'll put in prompts that are sometimes a foot or long on the page, like not 20 words, but 200 or 300 or 400 words describing things. And then I go back and forth to sort out with AI what I actually meant to get exactly the right prompt. Okay. And it can come back with polished words, but I unpolish them. I'll say, that's not how I talk. That's not effective because it isn't authentic. And it also comes back with, sophisticated frameworks. Now, because it has literally more than 5 million of my own words and books, a lot of times it will use my own language or frameworks, but it will put them together in a way that is not authentic and not me. And so we'll have to go back and forth and change that. The risk is that takes work. At first, it takes being completely grounded in who you are and what you know. Number one. Number two, it takes you actively participating in your own growth so you're not stagnant and you actually are leveling up day after day, week after week, not twice a year when you go to some conference, but you're actively engaged in growth. Then when you're completely grounded, you're actively engaged in growth, you can have a real and powerful conversation with this technology tool and know when it's on and when it's off, and talk to it like that. And then it can be of real value to you in creating frameworks, answering questions, and building coaching processes. I did that when I wrote Coaching and the Rise of AI and creating the Phoenix model, the triple helix coach. Triple helix refers to, a DNA strand that has two, and then it has this spinning thing. Well, imagine that only with three: presence, pattern, and power woven together. That is the triple helix coach, and the depth of it is explained in the book, Coaching and the Rise of AI. If you're a coach and haven't read that, you're behind. You're behind. So I would invite you to do that if you want to stay in the coaching business and if you want to grow and take advantage of this amazing tool. Okay, now here's the danger. Some coaches now sound deeper than they are. I know some. And here's how I know it. I hear them talk in front of several people. In other words, in a small group that I'm in, maybe 5 to 20 or 30 people, and I'll hear them. I'll hear them talk and how they explain. And then I'll have the opportunity to visit with them one-on-one, and I'll ask them out of curiosity, not to catch anybody, but I want to dig into what they're teaching. And it is shallow. It is the depth, the sound is like, whoa, there is something. And then when we dig in and say, well, what does that actually mean? Meaning, what do you do? How does it work? What does it call forth? It's shallow. So I know it brings people, and I know these people specifically, they're using AI, which is great, but it's not happening in a way that is growth-oriented for them. And so they sound deeper than they are. They are borrowing the appearance of insight. I want you to think about that. Are you borrowing the appearance so it looks like you have some awesome insight, but inside your heart, your core, your relationship with the divine, your marriage to your true purpose? Do you even know? Can you absolutely tell me what your true purpose here on this earth is? That's a place to start. That was a lot of gut-wrenching work for me. And of course it evolves, because as you and I climb the mountain of growth, Our view is different. Our growth level is different. We've had more experiences, and so it will refine. There's no question. But if we're not committed to using all the gifts and talents that we have and to serve with love, we're going to be out of business, because AI and all of its derivatives can serve with disconnection. Love is all that we've got. Forgiveness is all that we've got. Your divine nature is all that our divine nature is all that we've got. So borrowing the appearance of insight isn't going to get you clients, and it isn't going to build your business, and it isn't going to have you or help you make the difference in the world you want. You know, there's a phrase, word salad, and that gets thrown about a lot these days on the news programs, describing some people's language, how they talk. Confusing, right? Well, you don't want to be one of those people that are selling beautifully worded confusion. And I've seen that happen. And so I'm asking you, go deep and examine yourself. And I have some invitations here for you. Before I go on, there's a few more things I want to cover about this. If you have a story, it doesn't matter if you're a coach. If you have a story, a life story, a set of experiences that is driving your work and business. In other words, stuff's happened to you and it woke up your purpose and you're living that today. I want to feature you on the show. So I'd like you to get a hold of me. The way to do that is to get to reach Your Ultimate Life Podcast, yourultimatelifepodcast.com. Go there and there's a contact form. If you have a story and you'd like to be a guest on the show, I'd love to amplify your story, increase your audience. You can market your stuff. You can tell people what you've got. I'd love to help you share your message, because that's one of the ways I get to serve. So I'd love to do that. The second thing is, if the things that I'm telling you today about beautifully worded confusion and sounding deeper than you are, and the need for us all to be in a coaching container that is pulling us along, if that strikes a chord in you and you want some help, also use that same contact form and get a hold of me, because I can help you. I have walked this road. I am on it, and I know exactly what it takes to get and stay in business as a coach in this time and take leveraged advantage of the tools that AI offers. Okay, so here's some questions to just think about as you use this AI thing, okay? Since you have access to these polished things, you want to ask some questions. When you're talking, is this something you already know, like truly, deeply in your heart? Do you know this, or did AI phrase it for you? So I've been doing this podcast, Your Ultimate Life, living a life of purpose, prosperity, which includes cash, and joy, for years. Way before AI was anybody ever heard of it, except in science fiction books. And I've been living that life, meaning I know my daily purpose, absolutely bulletproof, and I live in complete prosperity, emotionally, spiritually, financially, and joy. I live in joy every day. Everything is a beautiful day. So those things were true about my life before I even talked about AI. Now, AI has given me some other words to talk about it, and some phrases, but they're all, something that I can measure against the truth I already know. So when you talk about things, is this something you know to the core of your soul, or is it something you discovered with the help of these models? Have you lived it? Whatever you're teaching, getting out of your own way, connecting with the divine, learning to meditate, creating momentum moving forward, forgiving yourself. There's lots of things. How to show up on video, how to learn to talk to people, how to have difficult conversations with your spouse or your kids or your business partner, how to sell to clients, how to enroll coaching clients or other clients if you're not in the coaching business at all. Like, do you already know how to do this, or are you just talking about it? Is it part of you, or did you just learn how to say it cool? Those are telltale death signs of failure. Would your words survive real deep scrutiny from someone who really knows the territory? Someone who has lived through this? Someone is lived and powerful, embodied is the word I like to use. But whatever, would your words and your description survive deep scrutiny with someone like that? If that scares the crap out of you, then there's some work to do. I can help you if you want, but whatever you do, get the help you need. I want you to stay in the coaching business. We need all the help we can get because the world is getting more fragmented, separated, polarized, and you know this, you can see it. But only the people that are truly integrated, purpose, pattern, and power, are going to last. So there's two modes. One is a generative mode, and the other is verification. Okay, generative is fun, it's expansive, it's creative, it's associative, it connects things together you might not think of, and it's beautiful for brainstorming. This is a very useful way to use AI, and it's a useful way to think about creating products and services. But mode 2 is the verification mode, and this is the part that decides whether or not the frameworks, the products, the tools, the things that you use to help people are going to work. Okay, those things that you create, they have to land in you as true. So the verification thing, it has to be more precise. It has to be grounded in your own experience, like to the core of your body. If the work you do with AI sounds really cool, and it just resonates and rings a bell, and you know exactly what that is because you've lived it, that's a fabulous discovery and a beautiful new way to talk. If you look at it and say it and it sounds so good, but it doesn't like rattle your bones, then you haven't lived it and it's not grounded. And it needs to be grounded for it to be powerful. Otherwise, it's floating around. Things that are grounded, they stand up to scrutiny. They stand up to you or I digging in to see if it really holds. That's really important. Most people live their lives in generative mode with the freewheeling stuff, and they're pretending they're living in truth mode. So I want you to think about this as a product, selling anything. I don't care if you're an MLM, if you sell a product or service. If you have cool ways to describe the benefits of your product or service that you think will help people jump into your downline or buy products or services from you, okay. And if it's not grounded, it won't work and it won't last and you'll be frustrated. Here's the problem. We use the language of free association and the loose mode, and we pretend it's truth. We pretend that we've lived it and we know it. So, for example, if you sell a product or service, do you use it? Do you love it? Do you swear by it? And do you know for sure it is what you say it is? And if the answer is yes, you'll have a way easier time because you're speaking from truth. Same thing with anything. If you're coaching and you're trying to help people get out of their own way, get out of the victim mindset, get rid of limiting beliefs, redo their nervous system, all of that stuff, neuroplasticity, reprogram, get rid of old stories, all the hundreds of ways we've said that. If you don't have that mastered, you're finished. Because the lack of veracity of what you're saying will stick out like a red alarm bell. It carries no power. When you're deep and you're grounded, you know when to explore and when to use the sort of light mode, and you know when to verify. And it comes to you intuitively. You know when to create, hypothesis and when to stop and ask yourself or others. I want you to remember this. Ambiguity is not a green light. Yes, we need to learn to be comfortable in uncertainty. That's a key skill to develop today. But when you're trying to help create the energetic space for someone to move forward and to, quote, step into their power, which is a worn out phrase, and there are others, but it works. Try someone to actually own the truth of their sovereign ability to create life. If your signal's incomplete, then pretending certainty is just arrogance. And it won't last. That's like those conferences we've all been to where they make a lot of noise and jump up and down and everybody gets excited for a minute, but it's not complete. It is not grounded in you. And so when you go home, it doesn't last. Real life kicks in and it's like, yeah, whoa, now what do I do? I got busy, and it all goes to the back burner. And so you think, I need to go to another one. I have a friend who's uses plant medicine that way, and they've gone to many, many, many ceremonies. And every one, they just come back and tell me they've seen the universe and they know exactly what to do. And it doesn't anchor. Maybe you know people like that too, and not necessarily with plant medicine, but with searching for things that are outside of them. The next books, the next conference, the next guru, the next meditation session. It has to be lived experience. And as coaches, we have to be the embodiment of that lived experience in order to create the energy and the power and truth. And the danger is Bigfoot, right? You can hallucinate and it sounds good. Now, obviously, Bigfoot on water skis was so funny and so far from what I was holding in my hand, which is a container of floral salt. It was about 8 inches high, and, it had a twist like a pepper grinder, only it was salt with some dried flower petals and some other minerals and things in there. And it was so far from that, it was just like hysterical. But lots of things are too close and still not real. Okay, I am not, here's a new requirement if you want to really be a powerful coach, and it's discernment. Now, discernment is not cynicism or suspicion, or it's not intellectual snobbery or any of that kind of stuff. Here's discernment. And you can't have discernment if you're busy in your own head. If you're busy worrying about what they think of you, or if you sound good, or if you're going to create good outcome for them, or if it's working, if your mind is occupied with that, you cannot be connected to discernment. Because the only thing you're going to be discerning in that mode is your own fear. And that's true no matter what you're selling, whether it's coaching or you're giving coaching or providing any service. So this applies to a lot of things. Discernment means slowing down. Discernment means checking reality, asking another question, sitting with it long enough to see together the truth. And this applies if you are in a mode of being coached, which you better be, or you're a fraud as a coach. If you're in the mode of being coached, or if you're coaching, slowing down enough to see and feel and experience the energy of the conclusion. Slow down, let it land. And something that's so important is separating the language from the truth. Truth is an energetic certainty. Language is a tool of description. That's why if you think about Landmark, Werner Erhard, they talked about, pointing at something, a distinction. I'm going to distinguish something. And the generally accepted description was you can't really define it or describe it. It's not a definition. It's not a description. Pointing at something that you have to experience in order for the weight and the truth of it to land on you. And that can only happen when you separate language, which is a tool, from truth, which is an energetic knowing. Now, I said earlier in the other episode, in this one, and I'll say it again a million times, I use the word embodiment. There might be a better word. I don't know. If there is, I don't know it. But for me, embodiment means I am the evidence of the truth we talk about. So a person who's teaching about fitness and nutrition, if they're very healthy and they're, a good weight and their body is toned and fit like it ought to be, then they have the lived embodied authority, right? And in coaching, what that looks like is, have you lived and are you the embodiment of whatever you're trying to teach? Most coaching is inside work. It's an inside job. Inside out work starts with what we believe, what we project, what we perceive. That's how we create our reality. And most coaches are not very good at that. They're not the masters of that yet, and they're not climbing diligently on the mountain of growth. They're dabbling and they're talking about it. And you can get mad at me for putting a generalization out there. And I haven't met every coach in the world or even a tenth of them. But by and large, the large percentage are not deeply engaged in their own growth. The more elegant the language, the more careful you need to be. When you're in the place of discernment, if you're the embodied truth, then you have zero attachment. You don't need any particular outcome. You're there purely with the eyes of love and in it for their growth and understanding. And there's no conversation or space in you at all, not even a nagging feeling way down there about enrollment, about signing, about money, about client, about any of that. If that's present, it's poison to the truth of discernment, love, growth, and service. And that, again, might sound harsh, but poetic error is still error. All right. People that are looking don't just need smart language. They need truth. They need sober guidance, and that can only come from being embodied. And a couple of final questions to get to this. Is there anywhere in your coaching you're borrowing certainty because it's not your lived experience? Just ask that. Where have you mistaken polished language for actual rooted knowing? Do you know how to verify what you're saying? The new standard. AI is beautiful, AI is powerful, and it is useful, and it's dangerous when used in an ungrounded way. Now, if you're doing research, that would be checking the math and checking the conclusions and a way to verify those things. And that needs to happen to prevent the mistakes. In energetic things, it's harder to do because it depends on lots of stuff that is less obvious and exact than a mathematical equation. So I urge you with all my heart to look inside yourself about how you're coaching. Because the language sounding good is not the key. Fabulous analogies, metaphors, frameworks, tools is not the key. The key is your ability to be and stand in truth and love, to listen people into existence through love. And that only happens when we are unattached, unafraid, and we are the real embodiment of what we teach. I love you. I want you to be in this business. And it's interesting because I've been talking about coaching a lot because this is a Coaching a Thursday episode, but this is actually true of any product or service that you're trying to sell or provide to others. Okay? The future does not belong to the loudest voice. It belongs to the clearest one that is rooted and grounded in certainty and love. These practices will help you move forward joyfully to create your ultimate life.
Never hold back and you'll never ask why. Open your heart and this time around.
Right here, right now. Your opportunity for massive growth is right in front of you. Every episode gives you practical tips and practices that will change everything. If you want to know more, go to KellanFlukigerMedia.com. If you want more free tools, go here, YourUltimateLife.ca. Subscribe. Share.
Stand with your heart in the sky and your feet on the ground.